Good afternoon, dear partners. My name is Olga Yaskova, and I'm a business analyst in Wialon Local team. My colleague and me are going to talk about Wialon Local, its development team, the product functionalities, and advantages. I will provide you with some statistics on what was done for the past year and give you insight on where we're eventually moving. As you know, Wialon is currently available in SaaS version. This is Wialon hosting that Tatiana and Pavel have already told you about, and in server-based solution. This is Wialon Local. Initially, both products were developed by one and the same team, but with the course of time, Wialon became too complex. The number of units and users was constantly increasing. It's almost next to impossible to give each product the attention they needed. Now, before we proceed to how we solve this issue, let me remind you how local history started. Once we had to come to the development of a server-based solution, it was necessary for security, for companies that need to keep data under their control. Political, when data must be stored on the territory of a particular country. A good example is the Russian banks. They should comply with these 2 points, and the best solution for this is a server-based solution. Until 2014, Wialon Pro was our only server-based project. But that time, it was no longer meeting the customer expectations. Besides, its technology did not keep up with Wialon hosting. The solution was not really easy to distribute and update as well. In this regard, we decided to create a new enhanced server-based version to replace the old one. It was supposed to take into account all the points that I have just mentioned. Thus, Wialon Local was developed in a relatively short time and by experienced specialists. They chose the following concept for the new product: up-to-date functionality from Wialon hosting, easy product installation. Wialon Local has an operation system and additional packages such as security firewall, for example. Automated update mechanism, unlike the previous generation where this process had to be performed manually. The scheme for releasing new version of Wialon Local included the addition of the latest Wialon hosting functionalities once a year. Different specialists were supposed to adapt it to the server-based solution. Normally, the work on the next version, such as 16.04 or 17.04, was getting started 3 months before the planned release. Because of this, we failed to meet the 17.04 release deadline and made it closer to June instead of April. In view of this, as well as Local have a number of unique features, the company's management decided to create a separate team whose task would be to focus fully on the conditional development of Wialon Local. Today, the primary goal of our dedicated team is to enhance Wialon Local, making it tailored to the specific requirements of your customer. And we are already taking tangible steps towards this. In this year, the 18.04 version was released on time. We will talk about a new version a bit later. Sergey, what do you think about Wialon Local as a local expert?
As most of you know, Wialon Local is a monitoring system solution that is deployed locally on client server. More than 200 of our partners build their businesses based on Wialon Local, and that's why. Full control. All data, including messages from devices, are stored on client server and under its control. They can decide independently when to start or stop Wialon, when to install the updates, and how to configure the system for their own needs. Compliance with legal and other requirements. For example, the location of servers within the country or the requirements to install the product in the client's own infrastructure. Usually it's national security and law requirements, as Olga already told you. Also, constant updates. Every week we release updates with corrections of shortcomings, with improvements to the protocols of equipment, etc. In addition, you know about the annual releases with the new functionality from Wialon Hosting. Yes, for some time you need to wait for several months for this new functionality from Wialon Hosting, but most often this delay is justified because new functionality needs time to stabilize and then we adapt it to local. Working with Wialon Local has a number of undoubted advantages, but at the same time have some difficulties. And the main thing is that by providing service to your clients on the basis of Wialon Local, you take responsibility for its stable work. This means that you must take care of such moments as install it on full server, no savings on hardware, no use of virtual machines. Do not interfere with the work of the product, use only supported software versions. Control your hardware part and, if necessary, prompt replace it. Also, control the software part. Monitor free disk space, the internet channel, check logs for system errors, and so on. Wialon Local is hosted by you, and the significant part of responsibility for the quality of his work also lies on you. Carrying an analogy, no matter how good the car is, the absence of accidents depends on the driver. In case of server solutions, on you and your system administrator. On the workshop today, we may talk in details about what your system administrator should know and be able to do. By the way, how many of you owns locals? Okay, thank you very much. And now the owners of locals who have their own system administrator, please raise your hands. Oh, less hands than I expected. So that it will be useful for you to know what happened with some of our locals. For example, some owners, without necessary administrative experience, mistakenly cleared the entire disk directory instead of logs directory. There have also been a case when a server crashed due to power failure because mob cleaner caused the power cable. There were cases of installing locals not on physical servers, but on weak virtual machines or even laptops, which obviously led to problem. Statistics is cruel. More than half of our Wialon locals on virtual machines sooner or later have huge problems. You need really experienced system administrator to work with Wialon Local on virtual machine. Personally, me do not feel myself too experienced to do this. A conscious and serious approach is very important here. Also, we strongly recommend the backup module, which will help you to avoid many unpleasant situations. You know, they say there are two types of system administrators: those who don't make backups yet and those who make them regularly. Every time when Wialon local server drops without any backups, I tear my hair out. So now I'm always bald. Thank you, guys. We always perceive your problems as our own. We also value the reputation of the company and the product, and our specialists will always try to help you in such situations. But we are no Jedis from Star Wars, you know. You bear losses as a customers, and we spend huge resources on solving these problems. Better safe than sorry. Install the backup server and, of course, have a responsible server administrator. We, on our part, will do everything to make the work of your specialist easier. Olga, can you please provide us with some boring statistics?
Wialon Local has always been in high demand. Here on the slide, you can see how the number of Wialon Local units was growing. And we hope this tendency will steady as it is now. And very soon we will celebrate of the connection a milestone 500,000 units. 147 these units are already on the 1804 version. And it's only been 4 months after release. Just a month ago, it was 85,000. Not a bad start for a new version. For reference, 1704 version has 111,000 units, and it was released more than a year ago. I know there are lucky ones here who already use the 1804 version. So, what is so special about it? Hope you remember the story about how we used to release local new versions. And each of them we tried to include all Wialon hosting functionalities that was added during the past year. But for some reason, this was not always possible. New team made sure that the latest local updates got the full set of Wialon hosting features. And now, 1804 is one of the most functional versions in the history of Wialon Local. You can find the list of new features on gurtam.com or consult your personal manager at Gurtam. Let me just mention the highlights. We integrated Nimbus, the solution for public transportation control. We added a new version of logistics. We added option to work with video. We added calculator to reports. Now you can add, subtract, multiply in Wialon without using other application. And of course, we added CMS dashboard, the tool that displays the system statistics in the form of graphs or tables. I should say. Year after year, we work to make Wialon Local better. And now we are proud to announce that the current version is only the most functional, but the most stable one as well. You can consult the business development already know on the topic of purchasing the 1904 version and its updates on favorable term.
So, as you can see, the 1804 version has really turned out interesting and saturated. But I would like to note that adding new functionality is not all we do. I cannot but mention about the internal, at first glance invisible, but very important work. The task of Wialon Local team is to feed on one client server the widest functionality of Wialon, ensuring high performance of the product. If you look at Wialon hosting, it's a very powerful product with guaranteed uptime at almost 100%, with a dedicated team for maintenance and support, the hundreds of servers. Wialon Local, in turn, should provide the same functionality on one and not always the most powerful server. Therefore, in recent years, we are allocating many resources for tasks related to the reliability and performance of the system. Thanks to this work, the version 1804 became the most stable in the whole history that users already experienced on themselves. After its release, there was not a single serious malfunctions, and minor defects were quickly eliminated. We will continue to improve our product and pay much attention to optimization and increase the fault tolerance. After all, we ourselves are interested in that updates and transitions to next version were smooth and customer did not deal with problems. As for some new features, we added the list of updates that you can check before installation, the release history, and also the possibility to automatically roll back to previous version if update was not successful. By the way, now Wialon Local can work completely autonomously without communication with the outside world and our servers. This is critical for organizations with a completely closed infrastructure.
So, what is the next? Basically, there are 3 major development directions we are considering. The first is parallel development of Wialon hosting and Wialon local functionalities. The second is the development of Wialon Local backend, its administration panel and diagnostic tools. The third is integration with Gurtam niche solutions. In other words, we are going to ensure that at any time you have the most relevant, stable, fast and easy to use system. And if you have a project where you need to store data inside one country, or even an enterprise or install a product which can work without connection to the internet, a closer product, we have an excellent offer for you. It's Wialon Local. We invite all those who are interested in Wialon Local to join us today for our workshop, just after lunch. We will discuss your concern and our plan. This is a one-of-kind chance to influence the development of Wialon Local.
Thank you for your attention.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation, and now time has come for questions. And the first question is, do you plan to support more than 10K units on a single Wialon Local?
Currently, we plan to make some tests because this new version 8.04 we think already have this possibility, but we need to test it on real server, and in a couple of months we will test it, and it will be I don't know.
You know, it's a very good question for our workshop because a lot
sure.
of clients interested about it.
Okay, maybe you have some plans, like when you want to like transfer all these updates to the more frequent ones. When do you plan to update more frequently than once in a year?
Yeah, this is another topic for our workshop actually, and there are not so simple all with frequent updates, because as I said before, the functionality from Wialon hostings usually needs to stabilize on hosting, and some minor bugs need to be fixed, all major ones. Only after this we adapted to local because it's quite a bit different system, and we need some time to add this new functionality. So on our workshop today we may talk about.
Yes, because if you need it, we need to discuss it.
Okay, so some more questions for you. The one is there a limit on the maximum number of units per instance of Wialon Local?
Per instance?
If you could, if you're here and if you could specify, like to ask the question in more details, we would be glad. Olga, please give a microphone to Walid.
Oh.
Here it is, yes.
Yeah.
About your question on the maximum number of units per instance, could you please describe the question in more detail?
I think this has already been answered.
Okay, it's about 10K units on a single.
Yeah, it's already been answered. Thank you.
And okay, let's check another question from Mr. Samir. Some security agencies require no internet connection from outside their private network. How do we solve the required frequent license checking connection?
It's a very long story, and I think Mr. Samir come to Sergey and he give
I
you
will
answer.
describe this in details. There are some difficulties and there are some restrictions for completely closed locals, obviously. And we also need to say that we need to improve our license system currently to make this work as it should.
Okay, hope we answered your questions, and I see that there are more questions. Yeah, and more questions coming from you, so everybody interested, we have no time for more questions, but everybody interested could visit some. We have questions from the audience. Okay, thank you. So please visit the workshops by these guys. It will be really cool, and there you can solve all the issues that are around right now Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's give the guys another round of applause. Thank you.